So, how is everybody? Good? Good to hear. Before I get started with the lecture, I want to go through a few things that I'm still missing from some of you. So, Abdullah Albada, I still need you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay? Rashed Almari. Yeah, same thing. I need him to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Fahad Al-Mutairi, connect with me on LinkedIn. Fahad Al-Raji, connect with me on LinkedIn. Al-Walid Al-Shamari. Saleh Al-Sugair. Fahad, I need you to also send me your plan too, okay? Okay, send it. Mishal Al-Sarai. Jose Cervantes. Jose Felix. I still need you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't think so. Jose Gonzalez. Naif Hashim. I need you to connect with me on LinkedIn, okay? Lise Mugema. I don't see her. Myra Rodriguez. I need you to connect with me on LinkedIn, okay? And Blanca as well. Is she here? Okay, she needs to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Okay, that's that. So now, lecture. Oh, before I do that, how are we coming on the posters? I haven't seen posters from anybody yet. When are you sending me your posters?
What do you want?
Now.
Right now?
Well, today. So does that make sense? Can you guys send me the posters later today? Yes? Yes? Nick? Yeah. Yes, Emma. I think she already sent me yours, yes. Huh? Yeah, she did. Let me check and make sure quick. Omar, how's it going?
Going all right.
I need a poster, man. Today? I do want it today. Okay. Okay, so now on to the lecture. I got 2 lectures to go through today. Okay, So I've got kind of a, I guess I need a projector, don't I? There we go. So the first lecture here is kind of a hodgepodge of different topics that are all important to small business management. HR issues, which I'm also going to do a whole separate lecture after this just on HR. Some systems issues, insurance, contracts, and legal best practices. So first of all, with your HR planning, it's important to focus on your key personnel. So that's going to be the existing owners and managers of the business, class venture team members, and technology or graphic design experts. It's also important to have a board of advisors with industry experts in it. That's one of the reasons why I've had you look up expert advice contacts for each of your businesses, and it's important to have some gray hair, as it were, in your board of directors. So, board of advisors, rather, people who have been there and done that. It gives you more legitimacy as a business if you've got some advisors who are a bit older. You need to think realistically about what each member of the key personnel can do. If there's more work to do than their key personnel can handle, you're eventually going to need to find a way to have somebody else do it. You could recruit for that from personal friends, acquaintances, and contacts. You could go to LinkedIn to recruit for that. Meetup.com is a great resource. And when it comes right down to it, you can just pick up the phone and call cold to various labor suppliers as well. And if you can't find someone or you can't afford to hire someone, consider using outsourcing vendors. I've put together a list of some key outsourcing vendors for small business here. Time, etc. is a good source of U.S.-based virtual assistants. Elance has both domestic and international assistants in several different countries. Tasks Every Day is a particularly good virtual assistant company from India. Fiverr is both domestic and international, basically offering services that start at $5 and up. So things people are willing to do for $5. Yes.
Are these specific for certain things, or do the companies as a whole provide a lot of different services?
They provide a lot of different any service you can imagine. And then Get Apps Done is a really good resource for getting software applications developed and finding software developers. There's a number of best practices that are important to keep in mind when you're managing your small business. Building an organization that's capable of executing on strategy. So hiring the right people, basically. Allocating ample resources for critical activities. Instituting policies and procedures that facilitate the execution of strategy. Pushing for continuous improvement, so finding opportunities for continuous improvement in what you're doing on a regular basis. Installing information systems that are really going to empower your personnel. Tying rewards and incentives directly to performance targets. Instilling a corporate culture that promotes good strategy execution, and then finally exerting strong leadership to drive execution. All of these are important best practices for managing a small business. I've listed some resources here for you that are good for finding best practices in operations management and HR. The Society for Human Resource Management website is really great. Startup Brothers and Startup Donut are two other websites that have a lot of great information on small business HR. Industry associations and Google are also good for that. And there's a couple of good types of HR software packages for small business. One is called Really Easy HR. The other is called Zenefits. Both really good packages for small business HR. Systems-wise, you've got the basics, hardware and connectivity, so things like desktops and laptops, phones and tablets, making sure that you've got enough memory and RAM for all of those. You're going to need an all-in-one imaging device, high-speed Wi-Fi, mobile plan with unlimited data roaming. That's all kind of like the cost of doing business, the ante to get into the game. Software-wise, you're going to need personal productivity software, digital graphic design software, web design software, and communications software. And database management-wise, you're going to need to manage databases for customers, operations, employees, suppliers, and financials. Some great sources of continuous improvement ideas for your systems are PC Mag and InfoWorld, both great websites. Google is also great for continuous improvement tips for your systems. And I've got on Blackboard, I've got a digital virtual world white paper, which is also, it's a bit out of date at this point, but it provides a lot of different information on basic systems and where to find what you need for small business management information systems. I've listed a number of virtual IT vendors here, which are good if you can't afford to have your own IT department in your small business. All of these vendors are good for doing outsourced IT work, basically. So the help functions of any of your software are actually a really great source of knowledge for doing things better yourself. Developer blogs and YouTube tutorials are also really good for finding how to do things. Continue IT, ISBoss, Geeks, Mindshift are all relatively inexpensive ways to do outsourced IT. And then ARRC is actually a local Bakersfield company here that also does outsourced IT work. Insurance issues. So there's a number of different types of insurance. The key that I want to focus on here is property insurance and casualty insurance for your businesses. Property insurance basically insures the things in your business. Casualty insurance insures if one of your customers gets hurt, if one of your employees gets hurt, then your casualty insurance will cover that. A really good resource for small business insurance issues is a website called Hiscox that I've listed here for you. Industry associations and Google are also very helpful for that. Contracts. It's always good to start with a template when you're developing a new contract, and I've provided in Blackboard here for you a couple of different boilerplate contracts that you can use for different purposes. This is a general non-disclosure agreement. And the other one that I've got on here is a general cooperative agreement that you can edit and use to your own purposes. So once you've got the template or the template, you want to put in the contract what you already know needs to be there. And then once you've got what you know needs to be there, take boilerplate text from existing contracts and kind of fill in with that. Other legal issues to be concerned with in small business are incorporation, taxes, employment law, banks and investors, regulatory issues, and bankruptcy, all of which could come up as a legal issue that you need to deal with. Some good resources for small business legal help are LegalZoom, Nolo, and Rocket Lawyer. And then once again, Google is a good resource for finding small business HR information as well. So that is my lecture on the hodgepodge of back office functions that are important for small business. That is the boilerplate non-disclosure agreement template. Let me close that again. Before I go on to the HR lecture, let me pull up the industry research. PowerPoint here. That we've talked about already. So I'd like to before I go on to the HR lecture, I'd like to play a brief webinar for you on back office best practices searches online for back office functions in HR. So we'll pull that up here quick. I'll try to anyway.
For my next webinar, I'd like to talk just a little bit about doing best practices research on Google in particular.
Can you hear that okay?
Go back to the presentation that I put together in the lecture slides on this topic. You'll notice that I have some general tips of what I think you should do personally, and I list some resources that I think are good in a number of areas: HR planning, management and operations, systems, insurance, contracts, legal issues. And this, first and foremost, what I already put in the lecture slides is really important to you. I've pre-screened a lot of this stuff to be useful resources for you, but teaching you to fish, as it were, instead of like fishing for you. A lot of what I found originally was simply done by sifting around Google a little bit and finding the resources that I suggested in these presentations. So to show you a little bit about that, I just want to talk about a topic that I think every small business is always concerned about and looking for better ways to do and looking for ways to find best practices, and that's how to get the most out of your hardware and software in your small business. So, it's amazing what you find if you just simply type in, how do I, and you'll notice I already typed some of this before. You'll see where things are going. If I type in, how do I maximize the software my small business is using, and type enter, that gives me a bunch of results, some of which are more interesting than others. 15 small business tax deductions. There's a bunch of tax stuff here at the beginning, which, if I were looking for tax-specific suggestions, would be useful, but in this case I'm not. I'm just looking for general ways to be more efficient, be more forward-looking with the way I use software in my company. So it's not surprising there's a lot of tax software out there, so a lot of the first search results are going to be about tax software. But you'll notice here, 10 tools to make you more efficient. That's nice. Maximize your time with online scheduling software. So some of these things are specific to specific types of software. Others are just general topics. And to show you how to whittle down a bit to the just the general topics, or just the ones that are about general improvement rather than specific software packages, I want to point to a couple of additional tools that are useful. If you start any best practices search simply by typing into Google, how do I do X, and just type it in normal language, you'll get a bunch of search results, 2,600,000 in this case, some of which are more relevant than others. So some ways to start whittling this down are, I'm going to point you to search tools here. I'm going to point you to the advanced search settings on Google, and a couple of ways to do shorthand for this and put in search operators that Google recognizes. So first of all, let's go to the advanced search options. So you'll notice the way I type that in, Google is looking, the reason we have 2,600,000 results is Google is finding every document that has the word how, do, I, maximize, each one of these words individually. If a document has it in there in some way, if all of those words are in the document somewhere, then you're going to get the results pulled up. And Google has a relatively complex algorithm for putting the ones that are closest to what you were looking for at the top of the search results. Now, if we were to take this out of all these words and put into any of these words and then hit enter, you'll notice we went from 2 million results to 25 billion results, which is, and you'll notice the way that those are actually separated by Boolean operators, if you went in and typed them one at a time, is just to separate each of the words by or in capital letters. So going back to the advanced search results, that's the wrong direction. That's too many results. So what if we go and put the exact phrase, how do I maximize the software my small business is using, in here? And you'll see that's too specific. There is actually no document that has the exact phrase, how do I maximize the software my small business is using. And you'll notice again, for everything that we do in the advanced search area, there's a corresponding way to put it in shorthand. So you'll see here, to do this in the search box, just if you want all the words, you're going to type the words. If you want the exact phrase, you're going to put that in quotes. You can either type it here in the advanced search area, or you'll notice, how do I maximize the software my small business is using? Enter. The way you would have typed that is just by simply putting the phrase in quotes. And the advanced search box also tells you how to do each of the things that these boxes suggest. So if we go back to the like results that we get just by typing in all of those words. Okay, it's less than 25 million, but it's still 2 million, which is a bit too much. So the next thing we want to do, let's do search tools. And something that's easy is we can whittle things down by just things that were published in the last year. So that brings us, doesn't actually tell us anymore how many results there are, but it's considerably less, and many of them are more specific. So let's say that we don't actually want we don't want specific information on specific software. We want general ways to optimize results. So if we go in after like limiting this to the last year and we start taking out things that are specific. So we talked before about how there's lots of documents that have something about tax software. So if we just type in minus tax and then hit enter. Sometimes Google wants to make sure that we're actually who we say we are. You'll notice that the result up here at the top that said tax is gone. So let's say we also don't want stuff that's about finance in any way. We just want general topics like this must-have tools one. So we're going to take out minus loan. So that's going to take out everything about loans and that should take out that first result. Yep. ERP is actually an interesting topic. It stands for Enterprise Resource Protocol. I can't remember what the P stands for, but anyway, this is for enterprise-wide systems, which are useful for general topics, but if we really want to get down to just the things that are general advice and not specific software packages, we can also take out all the results that say ERP. Maximize your leads. So this is about like sales software, basically. So if we take out leads, email marketing, so now we can take out marketing, and you just start whittling down the results more and more by taking things out, and eventually what you're left with is just a list of general suggestions. So you'll notice here how to maximize the value of your virtual operations. This is about general business plans. It's about networking in general. You just keep, sometimes we actually, if I make one last point here, sometimes you actually take out too much by putting those minuses in. So when we took out leads, and we took out marketing, you'll notice if we go back and add those words back in, how to quickly master social media, software every small business owner should use. Now, some of these general topics, somewhere in the document, they actually have the word marketing, or somewhere in the document, they actually have the word lead. So if you take those words out, then sometimes you're going to miss documents that actually were valuable too. So there's no silver bullet for doing these kind of best practices searches, but in general, if you start just by typing in the phrase, how do I do something, in plain words, and then start subtracting results that aren't what you would, narrow it down by date and start subtracting results that you don't want, you'll be able to cherry pick what's left over and find some really useful suggestions for how to improve how you use your software, how you use your hardware, how you do contracts, any topic, how you do hiring and HR, any topic that you're interested in improving how you do in your business, I would suggest going about it in the same way in a Google search. So that is my webinar on best practices for Google searches.
Grants research is also interesting, but that will be for another day. So, that's just a little bit on how to use the various options in Google search to narrow down and find good best practices information for your small business. The last lecture I wanted to do today is actually it's actually a lecture one of my colleagues put together for a conference on entrepreneurship last year, and it's all about HR practices in small business. So let me go through that with you guys a little bit, and then we'll call it a day. So there's various types of organizational assets that are important for a small business. Physical assets, financial assets, intangible assets, but also human assets, and that's the focus of this lecture here. Human resource management is all about designing management systems that ensure that human talent is used effectively and efficiently to accomplish organizational goals. What's involved? Strategic HR management, equal employment opportunity issues, staffing, talent management, total rewards, risk management and worker protection, and employee and labor relations. There's a lot of different HR management functions that are important. I just listed them off in a categorical way a second ago. Some of the more detailed issues with EEO, for example, are compliance, diversity, and affirmative action issues. Employee and labor relations, some of the detailed issues involved with that are employee rights and privacy, HR policies, union and management relations, things of this sort. HR management in smaller organizations deals with a couple of main problems: shortage of qualified workers, increasing costs of benefits, rising taxes, and government regulations compliance. The influences that affect jobs, people, and HR related policies. Basically, your organizational values, your organizational strategy, and your customer needs all combine to identify what the nature of the work is. That determines what jobs are needed, and from the jobs that are needed, you look for people needed for those jobs, and then engage in various HR activities such as job analysis, recruiting, training and development, compensation, employee relations, etc., in order to find those qualified people. Workflow analysis, important tool for identifying what actually the work is that needs to be done for a certain job. Studying the way work moves through an organization. So you've got your inputs on one side, activities such as tasks and jobs in the middle, and then outputs in terms of goods and services on the far side. This is an interesting table sort of looking at a SWOT analysis specifically for HR factors. So strengths are things like intellectual capital, high performance practices, loyal and committed employees. Weaknesses, lack of unskilled employees, or perhaps outdated talent management practices. Opportunities are things like market position, global expansion opportunities, and then HR threats are things like legal mandates and restrictions, talent shortages, things of that sort. So the purpose of HR planning is to find the right people, the right capabilities at the right times in the right places. It's very important to know how to do an effective job description. That's the exercise that we're going to do on Wednesday this week. The elements of a good job description include the identification, things like job title, reporting relationships, department, location, date of analysis, a general summary describing the job's distinguishing responsibilities and components, essential functions and duties, the specifications of the job, a disclaimer, and approval signatures, all important parts of a job description. So high performance work practices involve things like incentive compensation, training and development, employee participation, selectivity in hiring, and flexible work arrangements. All of these combine to lead to high performance in a small business setting. Components of performance management. So first of all, you need to develop an understanding of what your business's strategy is and what you need the people in your organization to do, and then identify performance expectations, provide performance direction, encourage employee participation, assess job performance, and then finally conduct performance appraisal, which leads back into identifying performance expectations again. Compensation systems design, there's 3 ways to do it. You can either meet the market, lag the market, or lead the market. And components of a performance-based culture, you can see here, clear expectations and goals are up at the top, funneling down to consequences for performance down at the bottom. And then finally, particularly here in California, some things, some employee rights that affect the employment relationships are things like employment at will, wrongful and constructive discharge, just cause, due process, and distributive and procedural justice. All of those combine to impact the employment relationship. Yes?
Is this on Blackboard? Because I'm having trouble finding it.
It is on Blackboard.
Okay.
It's called... hang on one second. It's not called hang on one second.
Okay.
It's called Virtual Enterprise Presentation. It's under Industry Research and Best Practices.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I have Windows 10, but it's not a PowerPoint X. It's just a PowerPoint, and my computer's not opening it.
Interesting.
So I don't know if you can save it as something else.
Yes, I can. I can. Let me do that as soon as class is done.
Okay.
So that actually concludes my lecture on HR and back office stuff for small business. On Wednesday of this week, we're going to do an exercise developing job descriptions for small businesses. But we'll get to that on Wednesday. Any questions about this today's lecture? Okay, it's a couple minutes early, but get out of here. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Hey, Professor.
Yes.
Last week I thought I sent you an email. Turns out I didn't. So I didn't give you the development plan yet. But I have it with me.
Okay.
Would you still accept if I send it?
Yeah. Just email it to me now.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Professor.
No problem.
Alright, so do you want me to follow the exact format?
No. Use your own format. I just gave that to other people as an example so they could see kind of what I wanted. It was good having you. Kind of a blah lecture today, but
That's okay. I know sometimes that. No, it was interesting that I never saw like in the webinar that you introduced this okay because sometimes instead of repeating the same, you have it already structured. Like I should, okay. I like how you have it.
yeah, it helps me to remember all the groups and names better.
I saw something like that, but only by names with Dr. Star, but it's better with pictures. I do something like similar, but no, I like how.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to come in on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not feeling sick. I know I barely make it, but today is my week that is kind of like it's not that busy because I have only it's called midterms. But that's why I wanted to come in today and then Wednesday hopefully. So
Okay.
yeah, I will touch
No
base
problem.
with you, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Good seeing you.
Okay.
Yes, Cirillo.
Oh, I didn't see that, but I'm just saying, like, whatever she's saying, wording, all the rest of these groups, they don't have, like, this package. Yeah, so we didn't mention, but we have this, so it's the same exactly, everything's the same. But text me email. To his email.
I'm pretty sure it's in one of the Sometimes you're not going to be able to find all of them. Huh? I look on Google, see if you can find their website. Make sense? Yes. Okay. You're welcome. Yeah? What'd they say? Oh, maybe that's why. So, to go back to the editor. So the problem was that that text box was over the menu. Mm-hmm. What? Did you connect to me? Can you send me a message again? Mm-hmm. So click on connect. Send now. There we go. That's all you need to do. Okay, no problem.